Okay, in this video I'm going to talk about number 20 on problem set 3. And number 20 is actually a slightly different problem than the other two in terms of method. So if you look, it says that copper sulfate exists as this formula. And it says that you can heat the water molecules off. The water molecules, of course, is this part right here. This is a hydrate. You can heat it off to form copper sulfate and water. Okay, so if you write that out, it looks like this, right? The reaction plus some water. And I know it has to be N here because if you work up the stoichiometry, remember that there has to be conservation of atoms. So the only way that would work is to have coefficient of 1 for the hydrate, 1 for the copper sulfate, and then N for the water. It tells you that in an experiment, this is 9.4 grams, and then this one is 5.25 grams. Okay. Tells you here to assume 100% yield in the reaction, which means basically all of the stuff you're starting with, all of these guys here, is converted to these two guys. Okay. Now, if you think about it, there's sort of a couple of ways to do this. Okay. Here, for example, we know that the number of moles of the water and number of moles of the CuSO4 is related by the number N to 1, right? So if I can, and that's given by the stoichiometry, so if I can convert this number to moles and this number to moles, then I can figure out the relationship between N and that number. Now that number is just 1, so then you figure out what N is. Okay? So it's really just a matter of thinking about how to calculate the number of moles of both of these quantities. Well, to get number of moles, remember I have to have mass, right? Well, I know what the mass of this is because I can just subtract this number with this number and then I get the mass of that because there's conservation of mass. So mass of water is just going to be 9.4 minus 5.25 gives you 4.15 gram. Number of moles now of water I can calculate. If I have a mass of 4.15 gram, number of moles would just be divided by the molar mass of water, which is 18. And that gives me a certain number. 0.2305 moles of water. Then the number of moles of the copper sulfate is just 5.25 grams divided by 160 grams per mole, which is the molar mass of copper sulfate, and that gives you 0.0328 moles. And then what you need to do is just remember that the ratio of this number of moles to that number of moles should be the same as the ratio of the two coefficients, right? Because that's the meaning of a mole-mole relationship. So if I just take, so N over 1, right? 1 is this guy right here. Coefficient of copper sulfate should equal 0.2305, which is the number of moles of water we have, over 0.0328, which is the number of moles of copper sulfate we have. And that calculation would give you number 7. So that tells you that N is equal to 7. Okay?